Hey folks, MacT here, and y'all know we had that Derecho go through here. Straight line winds of over 90 mile per hour sustained in most cases. It definitely caused a lot of problems, but I just wanted to relay a little bit of lessons learned and some things that I did plan out well and did work out well for me during this. You know, if it helps some of you, that's fine. It's not a big deal. We didn't have a complete breakdown of services, but we did lose power, and in that case, when we lost power, we lost internet. Those were the big things that were happening to us. Other things were just sort of scrambling around looking for. I'm going to cover a few things, but first things first that you might want to see is, one, when you have trees fall on your house, it'd be nice to have a chainsaw. And to that end, my neighbor has his own chainsaw. I have mine right here, and it's a still, and it's ready to go. So yeah, you want to have something like that for storm damage to help you with what you're doing. Other things that might help you to have in this case is some type of battery powered lights, and that will definitely help you in what you're doing, not to mention having your tools ready to go. But extension cords, I'm going to tell you, the thicker the extension cord, the better off you are, because if you got to run long distances, you want to have a heavier gauge extension cord. This cord here is essentially for my emergency generator, and it's heavy enough to carry that 220. But when you start running long distances with extension cords, you want to make sure that you have heavy duty ones. These are okay. 50 feet run, probably about a 14 gauge, I would say, is what it is. Just keep in mind, the smaller the number, the thicker the cord. I have a 100-foot one here that I was using on that, but then I have the blue one, which you notice is a heavier gauge cord. Definitely use this as my primary to run heavier appliances, but you also want to make sure that you have plenty of this. One thing I did find out is this is important. When you have power outages, your gas stations may not work. I happen to have a couple of these on hand that were full. That thing there holds about 7 gallons of gas or so. So that's a 5-gallon can. So the rate I was getting off of this generator was over 2 hours, I figured, per gallon. Now I was running it 24/7. And my previous video where I showed I changed and do the maintenance on it, this generator is 12 years old, folks. And I've been prepping it and running it and cycling it for 12 years. Hardly ever used it. And I have used it on occasions for 2 or 3 hours of use, but this thing ran perfectly for, I want to say, 60 hours non-stop. I did stop it for about 10 minutes to change the oil. I sucked the oil out of it, dumped in a fresh quart of oil, and then we fired it right back up and kept on moving. So yeah, you want to make sure it's 11 horsepower motor, and it runs a 10W40 oil, low oil meter on it, so if it gets low on oil, it shuts itself off to save itself. But it ran 48 hours. It didn't run out of oil. It was low, but it didn't run out. So yeah, you want to make sure you do that. Other things that you want to also keep in line, I had cords running all over the place. Yeah, we had cords everywhere. We lost our security systems because we had no power, but I have a bunch of cords here, and I have this contractor's grade extension, and you want to make sure you have multiples. That's right, because you're going to find you want to plug in more than one. Now the generator could handle the load, but if you have too thin of a cable, you're not going to be able to carry the load well. So you want to have a good feed cable to plug into. And then of course I have nothing but long extension cords and adapters like this. This is my Christmas tree adapter is what I call it. Very thin wire, but it worked for powering cell phones, lamps, fans, and things like that. Nothing heavy. Now approximately in this location would have been my emergency generator connection. I wouldn't have had to dealt with all the extension cords because it would have been a whole house and I could have just turned off breakers and ran what I wanted to run. But since I'm waiting for parts, it wasn't connected. So that's why I had to go through all that. But my next time, hopefully in the future, I'll have this all connected up right in this area and just plug that generator over there into it with that cord I showed you in my garage, and then I will be able to then power up my house. But for this time I had to use the extension cords. Other thing you want to make sure you have is like a fire pit, because you know what, if your stove ain't working and it's electric, you want to make sure you have something to cook meals with. What the ladies did is they would cook a whole bunch of stuff at one time, so you're only cooking once. And then since I had power to the refrigerator, I didn't have to worry about food spoiling, so they would just put it in there and then heat it up in the microwave or whatever we needed to heat up, because we had power and it would run the microwave and all that good stuff. So we had that to get through it. And you also want to make sure, if nothing else, you have a little bit of a supply of wood handy just in case you have to run across something like that. So that always pays to have that. And it never hurts to have the ice cream truck come by once in a while, because you all need ice cream under emergency situations, right? Another issue I ran into was this battery backups. It did not like my old generator inverter. The old generator inverter was giving it dirty power, so it was switching from being plugged into battery consistently, and the only way I could get power to it was by shutting it off and letting it charge with the generator, then using it to run the computer or the internet. So I did some workarounds. I removed the internet from the ups and plugged it into a power strip, and the internet was satisfied with the power and did run. But the battery backups did not like the dirty power coming from the generator. Newer generators probably have better inverters on them, and I forget what they call them, but they give a more steady power, whereas mine's 12 years old and has an older one, and it gives out what I call dirty power, and this battery backups did not like it. But like I said in about 60 hours of run time, I think it was, I used well over 30 gallons of gas, so be prepared to run to that gas station. Having the right weight oil handy for your oil changes for your generator is really important also. I use the last of my oil up, but it uses a 10W40. Not normally an oil I keep on hand, so you want to make sure that you have at least 2 bottles of that handy if you're going to be doing it. I give you 2 oil changes and about 6 days of run time. So you'll be set for that. Also keep in mind, your car is a good service point, but you got to have a full tank of gas. You can also provide power to your chargers, and you can start up your say your Edge and plug in at all the ports with adapters if you have them, and you can multi-charge a whole lot of phones and devices pretty quick that way. And plus you get a little air conditioning while you're waiting. So that's another way you can do it. Listen to the radio, get the latest news and things like that. As long as your car isn't damaged, you're good to go. And as with the newer Edge, like this 2019, I will have a 110 volt charging point also that provides power at 110 volts. So the newer Edges, you can actually plug a laptop or other devices using electrical plugs directly into it to power and charge them up also. So the newer Edges can play a part into that while you're charging. And again, like I said, you can enjoy the air conditioning while things are charging. And don't get any funny ideas about siphoning gas out of your Ford Edge gas tanks, because you cannot siphon gas out of the older ones nor the new ones, the 2019. They are all anti-siphon. The only one I was able to siphon gas out of was my 1997 Ford Ranger, and I emptied the tank on that the first day just to get the gas out of it, because we didn't have power almost anywhere and I needed 5 gallons more gas for the night. So I took it out of the Ranger. So I guess it's good to have an older vehicle sitting by so you can siphon gas out of the gas tank. Water everywhere, but none to drink. Yes, I'm in the ocean, but in our case we had running water, so it wasn't a big problem. But as with all things, I also have a few gallons of water always sitting around in the house that we cycle through, because it never hurts to have, 3 or 4 gallons of water handy to get you through the first initial stages of the emergency. Also got heat for those cold days. You never know, so I always have a couple tanks of gas ready to go with my heaters. That keeps everything ready to go also. Now let's move on to what we want to say about food. Now, some of the things about food, what you have on hand, I know you guys can do whatever you want. I got a little bit of MREs that I keep handy, and then once in a while we eat them and get new ones. Once I get the new ones in, we'll chow down on them. They're like the girls think they're like some special little thing, but they're MREs. The number one thing that we really always have, I got a full cupboard of and big bags of, is rice, because one, my family loves rice, and two, beans. Okay, beans are protein, rice is your starch. That's what you need. That's what you can survive on. Vegetables and fruits and all that stuff are luxury items at that point, unless you got a garden like I do. We got cucumbers and tomatoes and other things like that, raspberries. So we got the sweet fruit, we got the cherries and all this other stuff, that are in season. But in winter times, yeah, a little more selective. But overall, if you have rice and beans on hand, you're set. You got something to eat, and that's all it really counts. And you got the 2 nutritional things you're really going to need at that point. Meats you can then try to find, but if you have a generator, one, your refrigerator, freezer should be primaries that you get running and with the generator, and then you'll have something. You'll have those without spoilage. That's great until you run out of gas. So you got to stay up on the gas thing in order to keep all that moving. And like I said, it takes a lot of gas. Now, could I have stretched my gas out and used less? Yes. If I would have cycled the generators on for 2 hours on, 2 hours off, or something like that, depending on my fuel supply, I could have stretched it out even longer. Okay? Because you don't need power the whole time, but you do need to keep those things up to their freezing point. And a few hours sitting without power isn't going to defrost anything. But you got to figure out what your cycle will be and then adjust it accordingly. If you can go 4 hours, then you're even better. When you are up and running, make sure you charge everything up. Cell phones, everything else that you need. And listen to the news and all this other stuff if you don't have a battery operated radio. But in my case, we didn't run out of water. We had natural gas, so we had hot water because I have a hot water heater. I could do laundry because I could plug the laundry machines into the generator. At my point, I'd used up all my extension cords. So my rule is here, you can never have enough extension cords. But you got to also have adapters and everything else. We ultimately ended up making it through pretty good. I got the internet running. I got that powered back up because we needed power. It never went down. And then I plugged in the TV. We could watch TV. They were watching Netflix. Okay, so it wasn't a big disaster. The logistics was really the biggest part. Making sure I had enough fuel for the family, and then food. We didn't worry about food. We had rice and beans and hamburger and stuff. So we did with what we had. We have a lot of dry goods, and those come in handy when you don't have it. Then you got to look for water, and water's not necessarily that hard to find for me because behind my house is a creek. I just siphon it up, and then we can boil it, we can filter it, we can do what we got to do with it. But the creek is right behind us, so technically I have water. Creek water, but if you have the right equipment, you can make it drinkable. So, and pills and all this other stuff. So it's not a big deal for me because I know I have water access right behind my house. So I'm set. I don't worry about it that much. But it does pay to maintain your generator, folks. A 12-year-old generator came in and did the job after sitting around being maintained and cycled for 12 years and never really ran for a whole lot of time. Paid off, and I had electricity. So use your head. Plan ahead a little bit, folks. A little bit of planning goes a long ways. And home defense, if you gotta do what you gotta do, right? I ain't gonna say anything more about that. But overall, I was able to get through it. I had more than enough stuff to get us through everything we needed to get through. And like I said, gasoline was really my priority. That was the only part of it that I really had to work and stand in line with everybody else. But I went ahead of time. As soon as I emptied a tank into the generator, I was out getting another couple gas cans. So I didn't wait. I went out as soon as I used the last one. That way I knew I had at least 10 to 12 hours. So hopefully, you know, chainsaw lube for the bar, gasoline, gas and oil mix, chainsaws maintained, because trees on your house are no good either, and my neighbor's experiencing that right now. Tarps are another good thing to have to cover up holes and you know, make do. And we made it through it. It was about 2.5 days. Nothing fantastic. I mean, people in Puerto Rico were out for 5 or 6 months. I mean, yeah, you learn to adapt and do things. But, you know, get that generator now, because when you do want it, they're not available because everybody buys them. This whole area was cleared out for hundreds and hundreds of miles of generators. They said the nearest one, I think they said, was in Wisconsin. Okay, that's how far and wide people had went to get generators. So they were shipping them in as fast as they could, but they're being bought up as fast as they could. So I'm back up and running. I got full power. I got internet. House is going back to normal. So we're all set to go, and I'm making this video basically to cover what happened after we did this. Watch the video after this. But my feet at the floor day, I'm having a great day. Band of One's great music, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and join MACTFORDEDGE on Facebook and YouTube. And